Hi, my name is Mark Hundley, and this is Live at 5 for a Thursday afternoon. And I want to welcome you to what might be a bit different than my normal videos. I think if you guys saw anything of the post on Facebook this morning, you'll know that perhaps this one is going to be perhaps just a tad different than what it has been in the past few days. I've been sharing a series using Native American proverbs and wisdom, and I will start with one of those. However, that proverb will not be the main focus. The main focus will be something that I shared earlier. I really felt compelled last night as I contemplated today, sharing this personal experience as the primary focus. But as I thought about the Native American proverbs that so often fill my mind and my heart, I was reminded of one, and I want to lead off today's video with that one proverb. And it says, this is from the Hopi people. And one of the reasons I love the Hopi proverbs is because they are so simple and down to earth, and yet it's so amazingly profound. This particular proverb reads, "What should it matter if one bowl is dark and the other pale, if each is of good design and serves its purpose well?" Let me read that again. What should it matter if one bowl is dark and the other pale, if each is of good design and serves its purpose well? In a moment, I hope you'll see what made me go to that proverb to lead out today's video. But you'll notice that earlier today I said the title of today's session and the words I've prepared hopefully will reflect this for you. The day the racist in me died. Sort of. I remember the day as if it were yesterday, the day the racist in me died. The earth did not shake, the walls did not split, the moon did not turn to blood. In fact, no one standing around me or sitting around me detected the powerful shift in my soul. On the surface, nothing changed. What took place inside me was a completely different story. See, I was born in 1953. I'm old. Dinosaurs were young and dirt was new back then. About to come up on another birthday, too. Born in 1953 and raised in an ultra-conservative Christian home and influenced by centuries old perspectives that demanded segregation and differentiation based solely on skin color. Use of the N-word was a natural part of my upbringing in the great state of Texas, and necessary separation of the races was the rule. Living as a racist was the established, endorsed, and expected ideology. And yet, somewhere deep in the canyons of my soul, I knew that something was not right. I knew that I was not right. My great-grandmother and grandmother owned and ran a rummage store. If you don't know what a rummage store is, hold on, I'll be telling you a little bit about it. They ran a rummage store in my small hometown in the panhandle of Texas. For those of you unfamiliar with a rummage store, it is what is now known as a consignment store. Now, suffice to say that the rummage store of which I speak was not as classy as most of today's consignment stores. It just wasn't. The store was typically located in a dark, dank, Spartan building filled with tables of clothes and shoes and household items that were stacked and tagged for browsing and buying. There was a distinct smell in the store, not an unpleasant, earthy, dusty smell that permeated everything there. I spent most of my growing up summers in that small West Texas town working to make sense of the obvious separation that characterized my upbringing. Two things stand out in my mind most about those formative years. First, the only customers to darken the doors of that rummage store were people of color, literally from the other side of the tracks, and the occasional itinerant farm-working family of Mexican descent. It didn't matter who walked through those doors. They were greeted by the matriarchs of my family as if they were long-lost friends. However, the friendliness exchanged in that building ceased once outside in the real world. It was almost as if the friends with whom we interacted inside turned alien on the street. The second thing that stands out is the clear division between people in public places. I will always remember the colored designation signs for restrooms, drinking fountains, waiting areas in medical clinics, and on and on and on. These distinctions, although a part of my cultural indoctrination, did not make sense to me. Every time I inquired about these illogical separations, I received answers that told me that was just the way things were, and I would do better if I refrained from asking, "Thank you." As much as I fought against this injustice internally, its tenets seeped into the crevices of my soul and subtly, insidiously colored my perspectives, words, and actions. This continued until that day. It was the spring of 1973, my sophomore year at Hardin-Simmons University out in Abilene, Texas. I was a conflicted preacher boy working to reconcile my switch from Bible as a major to sociology of all things. As I took sociology classes and was exposed to thoughts and perspectives that were counter to my cultural indoctrination, the almost forgotten internal conflicts of my childhood resurfaced. I found myself face to face with the racist in me, and I was ashamed. Back in the 70s, there was a traveling group of young adult Christians, the Jeremiah people they called themselves, who performed music and short dramatic skits intended to challenge the evangelical Christian establishment of the day into examining somewhat, perhaps, archaic spiritual perspectives and practices, and then embracing change. It seems that on that fateful evening, I went to one of those performances because I was drawn to the somewhat iconoclastic stances they presented. I recall that the troupe consisted of about 6 or 7 white members and 1 black female. Near the end of the performance, as the strains of the final song rang out, the members of the group came off the stage and began filtering in among the audience. Typically, I attended such events with friends, but on that evening, I'd gone alone. As a result, no one stood around or beside me. As the group descended the stage, something told me that the black female would likely take up her place beside me. Therefore, I was not completely surprised when she found my row, walked toward me, reached out and took my hand. I'm not sure whether she felt it, but a kind of pulsating electrical current ran through my body the moment our hands touched. I closed my eyes, continued to sing, and in that moment, felt the racist in me die. In that split second, I became profoundly aware that the God I loves everyone equally. No separation. In that split second, the bigotry and hatred and fear and prejudice, and yes, the shame, disintegrated. And I found myself being filled with an awareness that replaced my own personal blindness. The racist was replaced with a new me, at least a new me in the beginnings, the makings. I don't recall much after the program was over. I do remember turning toward my new friend and hearing the words, "I love you, brother," as she walked away. I sat for a long time contemplating what had happened. To this day, I'm really not sure what took place, but I do know that the shift was pronounced and permanent somewhat. As with any deeply ingrained ideology or perspective, that old racist works to reassert himself and influence my beliefs, perspectives, and actions. It's something that we call implicit bias now. It has a fancy name. It reminds me of that things like Poe's writings. In Poe's writings, he was always burying stuff, but the stuff that Poe buried never stayed buried. It always came back, and it's kind of like what happens with that racist in me. It keeps coming back. When that does occur, I purposefully and mindfully revisit that day in my life, the day the racist in me died, sort of, and reconnect with the eternal truths downloaded in my soul. then I determined to live more meaningfully in that light. I can only hope that one day the racist and all of us will die. I also hope that we will become more and more aware of the implicit bias that drives and directs our actions and our inaction. I'm hopeful that the racist in us will die so that we can begin to reach out and be different, talk differently, live differently, and be of worth. I wish you a good evening. I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining. Peace.